a response video, I think, to Hythloday. Anyway, he's been making videos to him and Trick are apparently having a conversation. Text, and then Hythloday makes a 20-minute tedious video that nobody could understand, really, what he's trying to get to. Because he's mixing two different formulas, and I don't see any point in it. And this started with the Benatar argument about the asymmetry. And all the asymmetry is pointing out is that there's just this idea that good is sort of illusionary, in the sense that it only has value in the context of something that needs it. And that once you take away the need, you take away the need for the good, and it's not a bad. It's not like something being in pain. So the opposite of taking away a good isn't a bad. And it's just the concept. It's just the nature of value, you could almost argue. It may be the nature of electricity. It may be the nature of a lot of things we use the same metaphor for. Something like a vacuum and then the thing that fills the vacuum. They aren't opposite things. Full and empty aren't opposites in a sense. One is the completion of the other, and so they have a different. I guess the point is they're not opposites. There's no dualism. There's no. You can't just do the reversing thing as simply as you can in other logical equations, perhaps. So it's in the nature of value. So I guess that's the point I want to get to, is that here's a simple diagram of it. But need is the first cause, in quotes, obviously it's not the first cause, of value. Okay, that need, something in the need condition, the condition of being hungry or horny, desires in general, dependencies, addiction, they do kind of tie together, these words, and that is the nature of value, is in these words that create a kind of deprivation, and it's the satisfaction of the deprivation that we call fun, or good, or positive, because it's preventing harm. If we didn't satisfy the need, if we didn't satisfy the hunger, if we leave the desire unsatisfied, if we leave the dependency and the addiction, the attachment, if we leave it unresolved, uncomforted, then we have what's called discomfort, and that's the harm. And the absence of the harm is merely the satisfaction of this needful state. And so it's really just about need and its creation that makes all of this. So in the simple sense, yes, you say harm is bad. Okay, that's kind of obvious. And that's the negative. And then you can say, and then the prevention of harm would be over here, in the sense that fun equals good equals positive, preventing harm. Preventing harm is a good. You can get to good from prevention of harm, but you can't get to bad from the absence of fun. The absence of fun has to go through a need to be a bad. It can't get there directly, and that's the asymmetry. Prevention of fun does not equal harm. It doesn't equal the bad. So when you say prevention of fun here, that wouldn't correlate to harm. Okay, where prevention of harm does correlate to a good or fun. And that's the asymmetry. That's the nature of the imbalance. And most of Benatar's book is an explanation of how we have lots of biases in our perspective based on the nature of our attachment to the game. And some of those are biological attachments, and some of those are psychological or conditioned cultural obsessions imposed on us perceptually. We have written a fairy tale, and we live the fairy tale we wrote, in a sense. And that fairy tale describes things and puts them in value categories that keeps people motivated to play, because they're not seeing the richer context.
they do overemphasize the value of the meal and underestimate the pain and price that's paid for it. And that's the nature of our psychology. So most of his book is a description of those perceptual biases that make us
ignorant to this lack of symmetry,
and the fact that we are always playing a zero-sum game. A game where if you're lucky you'll just lose less than everybody else, than anybody else. And that's the nature of your good fortune, is to avoid bad fortune. Duh. And that's the substance of the game you're playing, is a game of not making too big a mess, not running too big a deficit. But you'll never be in the black in the sense of your own individual existence outside of a context where you can prevent somebody else's harm. If you can prevent somebody else's harm, that'll be a good, and that can make your life valuable. But outside of that context, you have no capacity to do anything good but expose yourself to the risk of harm and satisfy needs that don't need to exist. Needs that don't need to exist. Important concept. And that's why I bring up the Martian example. He didn't respond to that. I said he might, but he didn't. That nobody needs Martians. You'd have to make a Martian for there to be a need for Martians to exist, because the need obviously doesn't exist. And the same is true for Earthlings. It's only our own desire and our own passions, our own hunger that make this meal edible. And that's just an illusion in our perception. It's not something real, like preventing harm, which is a real good. And this fake good of satisfying needs that don't need to exist is just that. It's synthetic. It's self-justifying, which is a logical fallacy, which is a logical failure. Justifications have to go deeper than self-justifications. The snake can't eat its tail. There's no perpetual motion, and there's no perpetual or free lunch. There's no free happiness. And that's the problem with the game we're playing. And yeah, that's the argument being made. And he wants to, he wants to take the simple plus and minuses, so we'll just do the simple plus and minus again, just to make it clear. So you have, creating life, you create this opportunity for fun, which is a plus, and then you create this opportunity for harm, which is a -1. So you have a total of 0. And then if you don't do it, well, you've definitely prevented the harm, so that's a +1. And by eliminating the fun, you haven't created a negative. All you've created is a 0, because not having fun is not painful. It's not harming something. Okay, you have to have something in existence to create something that needs to have fun. And something that doesn't exist doesn't need to have fun, therefore it can't be harmed, so it's a 0. And so then you have this +1 on this side. So non-existence wins because it's a +1. Existence fails because it's 0-sum. And, yeah, not complicated. So you don't need to do a bunch of set math and a bunch of other nonsense. You have two sets. You have the set of doing it, and you have the set of not doing it. And the set of doing it creates opportunity for catastrophic degrees of failure and an illusion of positive, which is, again, illusionary. All you're really doing is preventing the harm that would happen if you don't satisfy the need. You're not going to have fun unless you're hungry. You're not going to enjoy eating unless you're hungry. That's the way it works. And it's the satisfaction of the negative condition that creates the illusion of a positive condition. And that positive condition can't exist outside of creating the potential for the harm. So there's no way to do it free. And yeah, so not messing with it is the way to go. No possibility of failure. Fail safe, and you sacrifice nothing of any real value. You leave nothing in purgatory, you leave nothing in jail, you leave nothing in a negative, deprived state. So it's all win. Create no victims. And that's without even getting into the ethical argument of assigning the value to something else, taking the authority to say you have a right to impose the risk on something else. That's a whole nother ethical question. But even without that ethical question, just as this indicates, there's no reason, there's no rational reason to choose to create a need that does not need to exist. A need that doesn't need to exist. It's just such an important concept. So anyway, that's probably enough. That's enough. But I mean, it's just no point in bending Benatar into equations that it's not meant to be formed into. I mean, it's not as simple as just saying there's diamonds and there's syphilis virus. You know, so you have diamonds or you have syphilis virus, and then you make your equation out of that or something. Or then you have some neutral thing that's neither a diamond nor a syphilis virus. It's just something nobody wants, but nobody hates. There's just no point in doing that, because that's not the form that the good and the bad comes in. It just isn't. I mean, the bad is always bad, but the good is good relative to a condition, and only relative to a condition. The good can be extracted by eliminating the negative, and if it does exist in some sort of independently positive way, it still doesn't matter. It's still not harm not having it. There are no Martians suffering for not existing. It just isn't happening. There's no negative to non-existing. It just isn't. Okay. Enough said.